Ahoy, and welcome. This is Admiral, here with a quick video on something from the latest public update preview, which will likely appear in the next patch, namely the laming changes, which I covered in passing but didn't really comment on. I love most of the animal-related changes from the preview, and especially the new animals, although I wouldn't mind if the gold from fur harvest required a drop-off like any other standard resource. At some point, this guy's got to max out on his ability to carry furs around. But the laming change is quite a bit more controversial for good reason. I'm mostly in favor of villagers no longer destroying boar meat if shooting from inside versus outside a town center, as that always seemed to be more of an arbitrary mechanical quirk than an intentional design choice. And I'd rather simplify this, especially if it means that we can make room for other, more sensible expressions of skill. What I'm not sold on is military units now having the same killer interaction as villagers, namely that the food is all still immediately collectible, whereas previously it was all lost. While losing all of the food didn't entirely make sense and was too punitive, I do think that losing none of it apart from normal decay is too lenient, and this is pretty clearly going to hurt the viability of militia rushes and laming, and will likely lend itself to even more streamlined and more campy Dark Ages. Coincidentally, my friend Robbie Lava just put out a video touching on why we don't need Dark Age to be any more limited than it already is. Now obviously militia can still be a nuisance by harassing villagers and killing animals in inconvenient locations, but even with this change, there's still hundreds of food available that previously could have been destroyed in a few seconds, so the possible upside of that risky strategy is greatly reduced. I've seen different suggestions for addressing this, including allowing militia to destroy or even collect food on the animal by attacking the carcass after killing it, or T90's suggestion of the animals losing half the food when killed by a military unit or TC. These are all interesting ideas with some merit, but my favorite is simply to increase the decay rate of animals killed by military units to twice, or maybe even 3 times the standard rate. I think that's a good compromise to where laming would still be situationally viable, especially if you're able to maintain control of the area, but the defending player could still recover a lot of food if they act quickly. There's also a pretty good argument from realism here, as anything less than a clean kill can significantly diminish the quality and quantity of usable meat and accelerate decay. Even modern hunters take pains to avoid gut shots, as they damage more meat and spread intestinal and stomach contents into the surrounding muscle, contaminating the meat. A soldier with a melee weapon intentionally trying to destroy an animal's food potential could do a lot of damage in a short time, shattering bone fragments into the meat, increasing the exposed surface area to accelerate rotting, and spreading internal and external contaminants. Even if it's technically edible, jellied meat from blunt force trauma tastes pretty bad. So in the interest of the triple coincidence of gameplay, logic, and the preservation of some of the original design intention, which I do prefer to preserve whenever possible, I support a compromise between the all-or-nothing dichotomy, whereby military units accelerate the rot of animals they kill, and siege weapons perhaps destroy them outright as before, for the vanishingly rare cases where that would be relevant. In fact, military units should poison animals they kill, dealing damage over time to the villagers that collect the food, and to any units trained with that poisoned food as well. Remember that rotting animal carcasses were sometimes used in biological warfare in medieval times. I'm kidding, of course. That last bit is ridiculous. But otherwise, those are my thoughts. But what do you think about the laming changes? Let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out my other most recent video if you haven't already. It seems that the algorithm pretty consistently nukes my impressions if I release a video too close to the biggest creators, which I avoid whenever possible, but it's not always possible. So this one's worth a watch. A little offbeat, but I'll be surprised if you don't enjoy it. And like many of my videos, it's made with stupidly high effort considering the size of my channel. In any case, I appreciate viewers of this and other small but high effort channels persevering in our Sisyphean endeavors, and hopefully if we don't always get the views we might deserve, it's because people are out there touching grass. Anyway, that's all for today, and thanks for watching. This has been me pondering the partial preservation of palatable protein produced by pigs and prey. Till next time.